Violence is a symptom, fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Welcome to the world, baby girl. I'll paint you pink if that's okay. We'll encourage self-destruction through the music that you play.
As many of you know, my channel goal is to expose the truth and to bring awareness to you, America. Western Slope Audit will delve deeper into the truth of the matter and go beneath the very masks and the minds of these psychopaths who are methodically and strategically taking over our law enforcement and other entities of power and control, leaving a wake of terror throughout the legal system and risking the very lives of the American people. Let's start this video I call Jury Duty with Thomas Perez, who calls the non-emergency line to report his dad missing. Several hours later, he's placed in a mental institution after falsely confessing to killing his father. The twisted part, which our focus will be on, is the cops find out his dad is alive but don't tell Thomas. Let's watch.
After Thomas was mentally broken down and had falsely admitted to killing his father, Fontana police received a call that the missing man was alive and well, but they didn't tell Thomas.
They don't tell him. They put a 5150 hold on him. They have him taken to the mental hospital and tell the people at the mental hospital that he's in an in-custody hold, that nobody's supposed to talk to him.
When these same officers go at home at night, how do they sleep with themselves? I'll tell you how they sleep. They go at home, they get home, and they open the door and they say to the wife, hey, where are the kids? Where are the twins? And the kids come running into the room and they grab the kids in their arms and they say, come here, Jennifer, Joel. And with tears running down their face, the police officers say to the kids, promise me for the love of God that as long as you live, you will never let any police officer do to you what I do to other people's kids all day long. And it sounds like a joke, but it really is an accurate paraphrase of the reality. I've been all over the country talking to thousands of young people in the past 5 years about this subject. Everywhere I go, without exception, I ask every audience, anybody here have a mom or a dad who's a police officer or a prosecutor? There's always one or two. I ask them every time, what do your parents tell you about the Fifth Amendment? Every time, no exception. 100% of them say, they said the same thing. They told me when I was a young kid, very young, don't ever talk to the police. Don't ever agree to talk to them. If the police say, can I ask you a couple of questions? You say no. That's why the subtitle of this book is what police officers tell their own children about the Fifth Amendment. Next question.
A crime he didn't commit that actually never even happened.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fox 11 News at 10 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas here for Alex Michelson.
And I'm Christine Devine.
New at 10, a Fontana man wound up in a mental institution after an interrogation by police that was so brutal, his attorney calls it torture.
Fox 11's Gina Silva is here with that story. Gina.
Well, this video is incredibly disturbing to watch. The man being interrogated is Thomas Perez Jr. He reported his father missing. Fontana police accused Thomas of killing his dad, and after intense pressure, got him to admit to it. But his father was very much alive.
You know. You know. You do. You knew you killed him. You know you killed him. You did.
For 17 hours, Thomas Perez Jr. is questioned by detectives David Janis and Kyle Guthrie of the Fontana Police Department.
How can you sit there and say you don't know what happened, and your dog is sitting here looking at you, knowing that you killed your dad?
It was a lie that was repeated over and over to try to get Thomas to confess.
I don't have any idea.
You do. It did happen, Thomas. It did happen. You killed him, and he's dead.
When Thomas first reported his father missing, officers arrived at the home with a cadaver dog, and they claimed to have found blood.
They claimed the dog lit on the upper bedroom. Well, there was no cadavers there. Nobody died. So that's a little suspicious.
Jerry Steering, who represents Thomas, says the interrogation was nothing short of psychological torture.
It's so horrible. No.
For a murder that never happened. He'd actually called them for help, and then they pressured him to confess to killing his father, but his father wasn't dead. Eyewitness News reporter John Gregory explains.
It was a call to police for help. Tom Perez's dad was missing. 36 hours later, Perez found himself in custody. Police had gotten him to admit to murdering his father.
I was now in their little box of horrors. Their little box, as they call it. I was now in their little box of horrors. Their little box, as they call it.
It was August of 2018. Fontana police were convinced Perez's father had been murdered. They thought Perez appeared suspicious, and they found some blood evidence at the home the two shared. They asked Perez to come to the station, and that's where they turned a missing person case into a 17-hour interrogation. They even brought in Perez's best friend to try and get a confession.
Dude, they got you murdered. They got you murdered. Impossible.
When that didn't work, detectives brought in Perez's dog.
You killed him. And he's dead. And your dog is sitting here looking at you, knowing that you killed your dad.
Detectives even suggested the dog may have to be put down after witnessing such a traumatic event.
Just wanted to hold her. Not let go. And then they took her out of the room sometime after that. And felt like the end of the world for me. Will you beer?
I've never, ever seen a situation where the police bring a dog this size through the police department, they transport it there, walk it through the police department, bring it into an interrogation room, and use it as a tool in order to seek a confession. It's unconscionable.
Perez was suffering from mental health issues. He was sleep deprived, and he says he was denied medical help. After 17 hours, police finally got him to confess to the murder.
Did you stab him?
I didn't think that I did.
But if you did, where would you have stabbed him?
It might have been the belly.
Detectives had their suspect, and they had their confession. But what they didn't have was a body. And that's because Perez's father wasn't dead.
They learned that Tom's father was alive and well and was at LAX airport ready to take a flight to go visit his sister. They didn't have the nerve to look him in the face. They didn't have the nerve to tell him his dad's okay.
Authorities put Perez in a hospital on a psychiatric hold. It was days later he finally learned that his father was alive.
A younger nurse came over to my bedside and says, I know it says in your file that not to speak to anybody, any family members. But your dad's on the phone. And I went, what? She handed the phone to me, and I just dropped to the floor crying because he was alive.
Perez filed a federal lawsuit against the Fontana Police Department and was awarded $900,000. But the city added the settlement included no finding of wrongdoing. None of the officers involved in the case have been disciplined. In fact, several have since been promoted.
Expose themselves every single time.
I just like to hit my brakes, scare you a little. Also, when I'm sitting and I'm running speed traffic and I gotta go.
You mean speed traps? You mean unconstitutional violations of our unalienable rights to travel down the road? Just because, and you want to catch us going 7 miles an hour over the speed limit when you constantly go 20, 25 miles an hour over the speed limit? Activated. I was doing.
When I'm sitting and I'm running speed traffic and I gotta go somewhere else, if I want to go to the gas station or grab a snacky or something, I'll wait. I'll wait till you come by. I don't care how far you're back. If you're 2 miles back, I'm waiting on you. And then as soon as you pass me, I'm gonna pull out. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Yeah. Also, at a stop sign, I'm not going first. I'll wait. You can do that. No. You're going. You're going first. Figured I'd let you in on a couple of fun things that I like to do.
And why would he do that? Why would he want you to go first? Because he wants you to be nervous. He wants that blood flow going. He wants you to be scared. He wants you to look at his presence as something that's intimidating. Oh, you don't want me pulling up behind you because I might find something on it. You got an expired license plate, boy? Well, I'm going to pull you over. You got your brake lights aren't working on one side? I'm going to pull you over. You didn't activate your turn signal when I thought you should have? Well, I'm going to pull you over. I want you to be as nervous as possible. I want you to be on your toes. Only a psycho would treat another human being like that. I hope this guy doesn't have pets. I hope this guy doesn't have a girlfriend. Can you imagine the mind games that he plays with people in his life? He's literally admitting to playing mind games with the public and admitting he violates that public trust.
Or others do the same. But yeah. Now you know. Or do you? Are we gonna pull you over? Or are we just fucking with you?
Wow.
Which one's it gonna be? You make that choice. I can't make it for you. Good luck. Also, don't feel bad. I still get nervous when the cops are behind me, even when I'm in a squad car. I'll forget that I'm in a squad car. And I'll see a cop, I'll be like, oh shit. It's the cops. And then I'm like, I'm a cop.
You know what he's saying right there? Oh, that's right. I am a cop. I have qualified immunity. There's nothing for me to be scared about, but because you don't have qualified immunity, you need to be scared.
But yeah, don't feel bad. Everybody gets that way. It's not just you.
Wow. Look into this guy's eyes. Those are the eyes of a true sociopath, a true psychopath. He knows he has the power. He knows he can abuse the power and get away with it. He knows that he can do certain actions where if you did the same thing, he would treat you as a criminal. Am I going to pull you over? Am I not going to pull you over? You got you guessing, don't I? Ooh, I love this. I love messing with people's minds. I love making them nervous. I love scaring the wits out of them. You better cross your T's and dot your I's when I'm behind you, boy. Leave your thoughts.
It's been a long journey for me and my family. Tyrone is my only son. He's not a perfect son, but he's a good man.
And Wednesday, after more than a decade awaiting trial, locked up at the Cook County Jail, her son, Tyrone Clay, and his co-defendant, Edgardo Colon, are free men.
Edgardo spent 10 years in Cook County Jail and elsewhere for a crime he didn't commit.
The two were charged in the 2011 murder of Officer Clifton Lewis, who died in a shooting at a convenience store where he was working security. Charges against Clay and Colon dropped after their legal team successfully argued that their confessions were coerced by police, who they allege then buried evidence that would have exonerated them, including cell phone records.
True, the police knew at the time this crime happened that Edgardo was 3 miles away. And what did they do with that evidence? They destroyed it.
While it is a wonderful day for our clients, it is a long time coming. 12 years. Mr. Clay has served 12 years in the Cook County Jail for a crime he didn't do.
I knew my son was innocent of this crime from the very beginning. I knew he was. When he looked me in my eyes and he said, "Mama, I did not do this."
Despite their release, a third co-defendant, Alexander Villa, remains in custody for Clifton Lewis's murder.
It's terrible that Alexander Villa is still in jail with everything we've uncovered.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office released a statement today saying it dropped charges against the men because it did not believe it could meet the burden of proof in this case. However, Kim Foxx's office did not address allegations by the men's defense attorneys that her own staff members also suppressed evidence. At the Cook County Jail, Anthony Ponce, Fox 32.
I ask every audience, anybody here have a mom or a dad who's a police officer or a prosecutor? There's always one or two. I ask them every time, what do your parents tell you about the Fifth Amendment? Every time, no exception. 100% of them say, they said the same thing. They told me when I was a young kid, very young, don't ever talk to the police. Don't ever agree to talk to them. If the police say, can I ask you a couple of questions? You say no.
I was a prosecutor in Manhattan, New York City. So let me explain to you, because we are getting a lot of feedback about these grand juries that are not indicting these police officers, and you need to understand something. Understand is that a grand jury presentation is an ex parte proceeding. What does that mean, Ike? Don't talk that lawyer shit. Okay, ex parte means one-sided. That means that there's only one side being presented in the grand jury. There is nothing to controvert or contradict what the prosecutor is putting in the grand jury, unless a defendant chooses to exercise his right to testify in the grand jury. And even then, the defendant is allowed to come in with counsel, but you as an attorney, me as an attorney, when I escort clients into the grand jury, I am not even allowed to fucking speak. Do you hear me? I'm not allowed to say shit. If I want to confer with my client, because he might not be sure how to answer a question, we got to step outside and come back in. The grand jury, the entire presentation is controlled, is orchestrated by the prosecutor. The evidence that goes in, the witnesses that go in, how the evidence is presented, the spin. Prosecutors control the grand jury. There's no judicial oversight. Now, that's not till after you got an indictment. There's no judicial oversight about how the case is going to be presented, what witnesses are going to be presented, what charges are going to be presented. All of that is at the exclusive discretion of the prosecutor. Exclusive.
Men wrongfully convicted of a double murder in 1995.
The men known as the Market Park Four were exonerated in 2017. CBS 2's Darius Johnson joins us live in the newsroom with details on this settlement. Darius?
Good afternoon, Jim and Marie. Taxpayers will pay $21 million to the four men, and the city's insurance company will pay $29 million, totaling $50 million. The four confessed to taking part in the robbery and double murder at a Chicago dealership, but say they were coerced by a Chicago police detective. Their attorney said there was no physical or forensic evidence linking them to the crime, and they were all given sentences that ranged from 20 years to life in prison. In 2017, prosecutors dropped the charges. A year later, the four sued the city of Chicago. Today, the four were paid for their time they spent behind bars. Finance Committee member and alderperson Bill Conway says it's hard to put a dollar amount on their innocence, but he worries about the many cases like this in the city of Chicago.
So I have significant concern on the amount here. I have no doubt as to the liability of the city, but I have significant concern at the standard we're setting at this level, at this amount.
Conway states that concern after saying previous settlements in the city have been between $250,000 and $500,000 per year of incarceration. The four men have all been issued certificates of innocence. I'm Darius Johnson, live in the news.
25 years in the making for David Bentz and his attorneys with the Wisconsin Innocence Project. Over at Oak Hill Correctional Institution, a similar scene playing out for Robert Bentz. Both men exonerated, free for the first time in over 2 decades.
He was very joyful to be released. He's very, very happy. He wanted some snacks for the car. He had some barbecue potato chips and a Coke.
A judge sentenced David and Robert Bentz to life in prison for the 1987 murder of Sandra Lyson. Prosecutors said she went missing from the Good Times bar in Green Bay where she worked. Her body later found in an Oconto County forest. An autopsy revealing she had been strangled to death. Police also saying there was evidence that a sexual assault had occurred. According to court documents, prosecutors say there had been a dispute between the brothers and Lyson about how much she had charged them for beer, and that while serving time for a separate crime, David had confessed to the murder to a cellmate. Jim Mayer and his team at Great North Innocence Project saw major flaws in the evidence, and that's why they got involved.
There was crime scene evidence that was connected to someone else, and there was no physical evidence connecting either Bobby or his brother to the crime.
Technological advances in DNA testing turned out to be the key to identifying the real killer, who turned out to be William Hendricks, a man with a history of violent sexual crimes.
You get a type of DNA profile from the evidence, upload it to public genealogical databases, and use genealogy to make a family tree, essentially, to narrow down your search.
Court documents reveal that Wisconsin State Crime Lab officials believe the chances that the DNA recovered from Sandra Lyson's body came from someone other than William Hendricks is 1 in 329 trillion. It all adds up to Robert and David Binns being free men, exonerated after 25 years.
It's indescribable, really. It's the best thing that could possibly happen to a lawyer, really.
For Local 5 News, I'm Paul Stino.
Under coerced testimony, they were convicted, with Soto being the shooter and Ayala the gang leader who ordered the hits, allegedly. The Exoneration Project took up their cases several years ago and have been able to prove they were done wrong by a corrupted case against them.
Both of the men are absolutely innocent, and it's a tragedy what happened, that they have served 42 years, over 42 years wrongfully. That's time they will never get back.
Ayala was 18 at the time, Soto 20. The two men are cousins. Soto's own sister, who was 8 when he was arrested, says she looks forward to their time ahead, especially now during the holidays.
My son just turned 18 and he's about the age that my brother got put away. I just look forward to a time that we get to know him and he gets to know all of us.
While in prison, Jimmy Soto earned a bachelor's degree and just took the LSAT, with law school being the next step. One of the men will be released tonight, the other perhaps as soon as tomorrow. Patrick Elwood, WGN.
Leonard Mack released almost 50 years of tears in Westchester County Court. His 1976 rape conviction finally vacated. He spent 7 years behind bars for a crime he never committed. DNA evidence proved his innocence. Now his record is clean.
When this crime happened, I was 23 years old. Today I turned 72 years old.
She knew me since I was a little kid.
We first heard her name Tuesday from police telling us this man, Raul Meza, implicated himself in her 2019 murder.
That's just not right, man.
Moving north to Pflugerville,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Julio Flores lives just houses down from where police say Meza confessed to killing his roommate, Jesse Fraga. The latest case, which was just this month, prompting officials to call Meza a serial killer.
Very surprising, and I'm a little concerned.
Meza's chilling rap sheet dates back to his teenage years in the 70s, where he got out 5 years into a 20-year sentence for aggravated robbery. While still on parole for that case, he murdered 8-year-old Kendra Page. And this is where his storyline repeats. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the little girl's murder, but got out 11 years later.
And to continue to commit these type of heinous offenses, this community has not been saved.
The community echoed this sentiment from retired Travis County Judge Charlie Baird, protesting Meza's release.
That is a heinous offense. The death of a child that also involves a sexual assault is a heinous offense, and the 30-year sentence to me appears to be just excessively light.
And it's killed how many people we don't know. So here's a serial killer that justice was not served. So it was a travesty of justice.
A convicted child killer released from prison after just 11 years is back behind bars after cops say he confessed to being a serial killer. Police say 62-year-old Raul Meza is suspected in 12 slayings, all allegedly committed after his release for, get this, good behavior.
We identified multiple cold cases that have a similar MO, and we're looking into those for future leads.
Meza gave himself up to police in Austin, and police say when he was arrested, he appeared to be planning more murders. He had with him zip ties, duct tape, and a .22 caliber revolver. Meza was 21 when he raped and murdered third grader Kendra Page in an elementary school playground. Sean Page is Kendra's sister.
I imagine after all these years, it just doesn't get any easier.
It hurt me so much. It was devastating to all of us. My family's torn apart from all this.
In 1981, when she was 11, her 8-year-old sister, Kendra Page, was sexually assaulted and found dead behind a South Austin school.
I missed out on her life, her growing up. We had almost 8 years with her, and I wish I would have had more years with her.
Raul Mesa confessed to sexually assaulting and killing 8-year-old Kendra Page when he was 20 years old. At the time, he was out on parole for less than a year for shooting an Austin store clerk in the back of the head when he was 15. He spent 11 years in prison for killing young Kendra, but was sent back to jail in 1993 for a parole violation. Now the convicted child killer turned Christian is being paroled again and will be back in Austin next week.
He may be a Christian, but why did he break his probation the second time? This is the third time he's done something wrong. You'll never change. Once a convicted rape child molester, always.
Once a child murderer, always a child murderer is the reason people living in Austin and 6 other Texas cities protested Mesa living in their area. The Travis County Sheriff says he'll be under the microscope of local law enforcers.
Well, the reality of it is he's coming home. This is his home and he's coming back here. And so what I'm trying to do is work with the parole division to make it as safe as possible for the other members of the public.
I think he needs to go back to prison. I think that's where he needs to stay. He was out on probation when he did this to my sister.
System, everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong.